Hello, everyone, and welcome to the August 16th, 2023 episode of Weekly Manga Recap, where we have no weekly manga to talk about today, but that's okay. We have other things to discuss on our menu.
It is worth noting there is a Chainsaw Man, but we're not going to talk about it
Yeah,
next
that's
week.
true. Because, we don't want people to, get confused, but it's like, well, you guys doing a recap of everything except Chainsaw Man, or vice versa? It's like, yeah, all right, fine.
And there are leaks for the new designs in Boruto, which everybody's been clamoring about, but you'll have to wait till next week to hear those delicious thoughts.
The only one that I've seen is the one for Serato, where it's like, stop it! Stop!
Nick, no more! They can't know how your true feelings are. Does Nick think it's the best design ever?
No.
Maybe. Wait till next week to find out.
No. But we do have a manga to talk about today. It's one that we happen to be ready to discuss it just at the most perfect time, because we didn't have any weekly manga to talk about, and we kind of needed other stuff to talk about today. So, hey, we've got a nice discussion that we can do in place of that. And B, which follows after one, there was a thing that I didn't know about, and you had to tell me, which is that a video fighting game thing happened to happen just now, I guess. Can you remind me of the terminology of that?
Yeah.
Because I don't know it.
EVO, which is the big fighting game tournament that is held in North America once a year. It's usually where most of the big fighting game tournaments take place because it is an agnostic arena. You can have Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, all this sort of stuff. There's other tournaments, things like that. Those do exist. But EVO is one of the big ones. And that just happened not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. So it's pretty fresh and recent in memory.
And we are talking about a fighting game manga. But not just any fighting game manga. One about young ladies. Is there
another one?
Who can't be young ladies can't be playing the fighting games. Well, that's just
now that I say
not
it,
young ladylike.
That is not. Now that I say it, there are mangas for fighting games, not manga about fighting games. There's mangas for fighting games. I know there's a Street Fighter manga. There is I don't know if Guilty Gear, but there's Blaze Blue manga as well.
Blaze
Blue. I'm like going into Target over there. I feel like there's another one that has a big manga.
There's got to be a Tekken manga.
It's the at the end of it, Heihachi throws Akuma into a volcano, which would be sad. That's basically his son. I mean, I guess he throws his son into a volcano.
It sounds like a Bible story.
I've spent a lot of time getting interested in fighting games recently, and part of it was just exploring their lore. And Tekken does have one of the most wild pieces of lore, and that it's just one family line that keeps throwing each other off of giant things, off of cliffs, off of volcanoes, off of helicopters. It's just what they do.
Honestly, I think that might be one of the few complaints I have about about this series, is that the fighting game featured in it doesn't seem to have very deep lore. And the more that I've learned about fighting games, by the way, listen to our bonus episode where Quinn explains to me the entire plot of the Mortal Kombat franchise. It's a great lesson and a good old time. And fighting games have stupid backstories.
Yes.
Or really big sprawling ones have stupid backstories to them. Even if you get into just the most successful fighting game franchise right now, competitively, would be Street Fighter. You would think.
Yes.
Heck, the fighting game in this seems to have definitely a lot of nods to Street Fighter in its
It's
basic design.
it's an amalgam of a lot of different things. Like it takes influences everywhere, but the thing it most closely resembles is Street Fighter.
But the fighters are just like high school stereotypes.
Well, they're like high school stereotypes, but there is like the idea of a bigger plot going on where it's like, I won't be the student council's pawn anymore, and everyone's shooting lasers. So I
Yes.
imagine there is. I assume at some point in time we will meet a character in this series who's just the one lore nerd who's like,
The one.
I only play this to see if, Haruba Sensei comes back from Iron Senpai 2 so they can continue his storyline, which is how I feel about 99% of fighting game characters. I just want the most obscure and stupid ones to come back over and over.
That doesn't sound like you at all. Anyway, Gin from in One Piece is coming back next week.
He's got to be part of those Holy Knights, Nick. They announced the group as 10 members. Just think percentage-wise, he's a lock for that.
So to get into what this story is about, beyond just fighting games, and in fairness, a lot of it is just it's just about fighting games. But the greater premise is that we start, at least to begin with, is we start out this story at this high school level academy for young ladies, and our main characters. I guess our protagonist would be Aya. It's kind of hard to tell exactly who it is between her and Mio, the second girl. But Aya is this like scholarship student, very, very dedicated, very studious, which she had to be, and to get into this prestigious school when she doesn't have a lot of family wealth. And there is this girl, Mio, who everyone refers to as like Shura Yuri-sama, because she is this, perfectly elegant, like the image of what a young proper lady should be like. Everything that she does is seemingly effortless and beautiful and stuff. And one day Aya comes across her playing a fighting game in an abandoned classroom, and getting superheated and into it, telling her opponent that they're a fucking noob and stuff like that. And oh my gosh, the secret is exposed. But as it turns out, Aya is also a massive closeted fighting game nerd. So this stuff happens, which it's worth reading to see how the relationship develops at the start. But honestly, you get through it really quickly in order to just get into the main premise of cute high school girls who should not be playing such an unladylike activity as fighting games are playing fighting games and just meeting up in the middle of the night in this one abandoned dorm room at the end of the hall so that they can play fighting games together until all hours of the morning, because they're in high school. And when you're in high school, you don't need to sleep. It's a myth. You just gain energy from doing everything else in your life. You're like a plant, except that instead of, like water and sunlight, you subsist on soda and being mean to each other.
Yeah, you don't photosynthesize, you Linkin Park-ize. I couldn't think of a band that fit in there, but you get what I'm going for. So, yeah, the series would be described as sort of... I say it's a fight, or it is a sports manga. This is them participating in a sport, and the entire central sort of element or relationship in this is a rivalry that exists between Aya and Mio, and the fact that they both kind of need each other because of their particular relationships to fighting games. We'll talk about that probably a little bit later. Mm-hmm. It's also a comedy. This is a very silly series. This is very out there. There's a lot of just good, like, whiplash humor, turn a page, something crazy happens. The other thing that it constantly gets tagged as is Yuri, which I suppose technically is true.
It is.
But if at the end of this series, like, almost all the Yuri is treated very tongue-in-cheek comedically, it is never really, like, there's not too many scenes where at the end of it you're like, oh, maybe there is something here. More often than not, it's very quickly like a joke of like, hey, bitch, let's fucking, you ready to get schooled again? Like, you know, stuff like that. So keep that in mind if you're like, ooh, I can't wait for another sweet Yuri. I think this is actually very sweet and tender, and there's an incredible amount of like healthy female relationships in this series.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is necessarily going to be exactly what you're looking for if you think Yuri is the predominant factor. It's really not.
Right. It's very different from, and I'm not saying this in terms of like a knock against Beauty and the Beast girl, which I yes, I did not like it or I didn't care for it. But my the stark difference between them is not, I'm saying this in terms of quality, I'm saying in terms of like approach to like how you use the Yuri element. That series was much more like, kind of instant gratification. Basically every single chapter was focused around like, oh, the romantic relationship between the two. This one, there is, if you read the whole thing, or hell, even if you read the first 4 chapters, an undeniable Yuri element, and it's an undeniable like at least depiction of the two main characters in terms of like there being a romantic tension between them. But you gotta wait for it. As far as I know, there's the the only payoff it seems like we've gotten so far in the first 5 volumes, which are available to purchase through Seven Seas Entertainment. Uh, it has been that one of them seems to have admitted to themselves that they like the other in that way. And it hasn't been even mentally stated explicitly. So,
Yeah, there's maybe something there, maybe not. um,
right. So, very different tracks and very different pacings on how you get that kind of gratification.
But what I really love is, even if that's not there, they do kind of take what would be that your relationship and turn it into this sports rivalry, which is, as I mentioned before, like Mio and Aya really kind of need one another because they complement each other's like weird connection to this game in different ways. Mio is sort of like this prodigy player who is extremely easy to frustrate at times, and then she also just innately is just good at the game. She just has the sixth sense for it, and as a result she's a very frustrating person to play against because she will constantly get better, like even throughout a match. Anytime you can't like develop anything that's like a counter to her, she'll immediately start figuring it out or just get very brazen with what she does. She's just, she's a very good player. And Aya is also a very good player, but she needs to be defeated. That's the thing that kind of exists in this series. A lot of her turmoil comes from a place where when she was a young kid, she was the best at that version of Iron Senpai. I think Iron Senpai 2 is the game they were playing at the time.
Yeah.
Iron Senpai 4 is the game that's currently out in the manga. So she was the best at it, and she beat all the other boys in school to the point where they got tired of the game and moved on to something else. Moved on to soccer or just moved on to sports activities in general.
Yeah.
And she was left behind, kind of feeling like she didn't have anyone to challenge her. There wasn't like a fun camaraderie, and like the sport became a detriment to her. Almost became like a poison. And so there's this interesting conflict that she gets in where she strives to get better. She wants to get better, but she ultimately kind of needs to lose a lot. Like she needs to kind of feel like she's a young kid who's being challenged by people who are as vested in this game as she is.
The major benefit that she gets from her connection with Mio is that, yeah, she offers that perpetual challenge to her. It's that sports rivalry in the most healthy shonen sense where they're constantly pushing each other to get better. Uh, but Mio doesn't really think of it in those terms. Mio's just like, "Yay, we're playing fighting games! Yay!"
Mio's excited to play with anybody.
Just constantly, and she's just like, "Yeah, let's fight! Yay!" She's very childlike in how she's portrayed a lot of times. She's got very simple wants and desires, and she has a lot of just very silly, funny moments because she's so immature in how she demands things. There is a chapter where it's kind of set up as if it's going to be Mio's tragic backstory before she got into the academy, which is, and she launches into a full flashback and said, one day my mom took away my game console and locked it up until I would study hard enough to get into a good school.
Yeah, she's just like, I fucking hated studying so much.
I hate studying.
It's great because they do. I mean, from the very beginning of this manga, they are trying to tear down like that stereotype that they initially set for Mio, where it's like, oh, the calm, regal beauty. Like even the name of this manga almost feels like a misdirect at times.
Right.
Because this whole idea of like young ladies shouldn't play fighting games. Every young lady at this school plays fighting games.
Seemingly. It seemed like that was going to be like a source of conflict for a little while, given that, like people are told, it's like, you will get in trouble if you are caught playing video
You'll
games.
be expelled, and like
very, very major.
For Mio, who like needs to be at this school because it's the only way she'll ever be allowed to play fighting games, and then for Io, who's like on a scholarship, it's like, oh, this is very precarious. We cannot possibly get expelled. But
they jump through a window at the beginning of the series in order to escape from, campus security so they don't get caught playing video games. And then it's just like, the two senpais that monitor their floor are also fighting game nerds, and so they just start playing games together.
It is a wild thing. They introduce in like in volume 2. They're like, hey, there's these two students, like there's a student council, and one of them's kind of strict. Like it's very tense. Like one of the girls is out for like evening roll call, and she's wearing her pajamas already, and like one of them's dressing her down. Like, show yourself a little decorum. This is Fancy Pants Academy. We don't let you wear a cardigan at least outside, dear. This is absurd. So you really do get the idea, like, oh, they're gonna have to like dance around this, and like they very quickly are confronted. They try to like sneak in to get some games, and they're confronted, and then they, just for both of them, they're just like, "Do you like fighting games?" And I'm like, "Well, I get some time in on the old sticks, if you know what I mean." And that becomes like the new relationship. It works because you do get, as I mentioned before, like they have like a strong like 4-person friendship that has like different dynamics in there, and like there's different elements of relationship. Their personalities are different. It's very refreshing and nice to see that. But at the same time, that is a premise that is dropped very quickly.
And I think the majority of the series that has been released in volume form thus far, I think takes place at their first tournament together.
Yeah. At the current point of the manga, they are still in EX Japan, which is their this big major tournament going on right near the school.
So we get very, very heavily into sports manga stuff, or I guess in its own way, the tournament arc kind of stuff, where they're meeting rivals, including some instantly memorable characters, and just like you get tastes of like these figures that have tremendous backstory with each other very suddenly.
You do. It leads to an awesome moment, though. There is a point where during this manga, 4 matches are happening simultaneously that I was I want to know what's happening in every one of these fights right now. Like, I need to. It works really well as they bounce back and forth. And at the point we're at now, like, they finally, I think, have resolved them. But it was so satisfying, like, going through. I think 1 might still be going. No.
I think we don't see the result of one of them.
Yeah.
Because I think that we get an indication of how Taya's match with her sister went, but I don't think we got it for certain.
Yeah.
Because they were especially because they were just having a casual match instead of a tournament match. So.
But yeah, it's extremely cool. This is one of the better tournament arcs I've read, simply because like I'm like, shit, this is actually like kind of exciting. Like you have a lot of storylines going on here.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of digging them all.
Yeah, and there's a lot of there's different things happening to each of the characters as they're challenged in different ways. Like Aya has to have a tournament match against this veteran gamer whom she idolizes because she was like watching him on fighting game streams when she was a kid. There's this massive breakthrough that Mio makes in her play style, and probably the one who had gotten like the least focused at that point, you or what did she call stuff like Inuyu or something like that? Um,
Yeah.
who's who's like their senpai who's like really laid back and casual. She has this really interesting match against this asshole kid.
She fights an absolute gremlin of a child.
She is awful and also very tragic. There's a lot of great little big, very intriguing backstories in terms of like the way that people relate to the game and how it helps and how it kind of has defined their relationship with other people. Like you were talking about earlier, how for Aya it defined like the friend group that she had when she was young and why she didn't have a friend group afterwards because everyone stopped playing the game with her, and now she's in this much healthier place because suddenly she at this school hey, discovered this small but very passionate and very supportive group of friends who just like hanging out with each other and playing games together, and she's starting to really excel in that part of her life again. And there is there's this thing where like one of their other characters has this big sister inferiority complex that she's trying to deal with, and it's just all really nice to just like have this stuff that is presented in a way that is intriguing and like you want to find out what's going to happen to all of them and everything. And like you were saying before as well, it's also just really funny a lot of the time. There is this great conversation where like two different antagonistic forces kind of come across the group at the same time. There is said gremlin character and said older sister character who both butt heads with different members of the group at the same time. And as part of that, the gremlin girl throws her food at Mio when they're having an argument, and Mio says, "You're a big stupid doo-doo head," because she does.
It's one of the best. I know the quote you're going for. It's when they first meet the gremlin girl, and she's talking shit about Aya because Aya had like this whole speech about what this tournament was, and also and it wasn't like let's win it all. It was kind of like, look, you're here. This is what the sport. This is what we love. Don't go in expecting to win. Go in expecting to play games and to be enriched at the end of it. And the grandma girl's like, what a fucking noob ass thing to say. Yeah. And Mio comes in to try to defend her and like forgets her point midway through, and she's like, you're a stinky doo-doo. It's so good. It's like a full page, and like one half is her just be like, you're a stinky doo-doo poo-poo, and the other half's like, what? It's legitimately one of the funniest pages.
Everyone's like, what the hell? And just this kid who's even younger than her is like, how dare you?
It's very funny because it does capture this Mio character, which sometimes she just loses her train of thought and she gets very distracted. One of the other ones I really enjoy is like they're teaching one of the older students to play the game. Yeah. And the older one's like, I don't think I should do this. And Aya's like, no, you're going to shut the fuck up and you're going to do this, because if you don't, you will never have a chance to beat any of us. You can play us anytime you want, but you're not good enough. Every game against us is going to be 0. And then one girl's like, 0? The number invented in India by some man in India? And Mia's like, ooh, tell me more about that. It's just like, all right.
Just completely off the rails immediately. But there's this moment, and this girl gets pissed off at Mio, throws her food at her, and for some reason, Mio does this perfect wax on, wax off block. But because she does that, she tosses the bowl directly into Inui's head, and so it's just sitting there in her head. And then the older sister bully character comes along, confronts Tia about stuff like, oh, what are you doing here? Losing fighting games again? And he's like trying to stand up to her, and she's still got the plate of food on her
It's great. A character later on is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. I thought you were just some obnoxious influencer who walk around with a plate of food on their head." Like, no.
And she still doesn't take the food off her head.
Uh, this series is also really good at just getting big and weird, like kind of that way you want a sports manga to be, where it gets extreme. Characters get hyped up, and they'll
Yeah.
do dramatic things. Not There is more than one character to get themselves in the mindset of the game takes their fight pad and slams themselves in the head with it. Like it happens multiple times. And when characters win, they get big dramatic reactions. They get excited. They get pumped. Like this is like a big deal for them. And I think that really helps to like capture, like, even if you don't know why fight, like if you don't have like an interest in fighting games, you maybe don't even understand these mechanics or stuff like that they're talking about. I'd like to think you're still able to get some level of like intrigue into this series, because it's just it's able to capture just raw emotion a lot of the times, and I think that works to the series' benefit. It uses a lot outside of fighting games as well, as the aforementioned jumping through a classroom window.
Yes.
But like it's just good at capturing big moments.
I do think that sometimes it does get a bit too
In the weeds,
technical.
it gets very in the weeds at times.
Like, I mean, look, the way that the action falls, fortunately, you get a lot of shots of like how the action is actually unfolding on the screen, in terms of like, okay, here's the situation that they're in. One character is pinned in the corner, they've got really low health, they're desperately blocking everything. So it's very easy to get across like this is the desperation of the situation they're in. A lot of the action at its basic level is easy to grasp, but then there'll just be these really long explanations of like, let me tell you about what block walking is.
Yeah. There's like I've been following a lot of fighting games, and I've spent ample time at the fighting game glossary, which is a very helpful thing, because fighting games just have so many terms that constantly get thrown about. It took me forever to figure out what a Shoto character was, and then there's another term I can't remember. It's like involving a K, but it was like, oh, it's a character with multi-stage like combo that has like chains and stuff like going on, and people just throw that term around a lot. So there's a lot of that where people will just be like, yeah, they're doing chip damage, or like, oh yeah, they're block walking, like, oh, they're doing cancel hit, medium kick hit confirms, and like if you read the volumes, the author, Eri Ijima, does put like glossary details in there, and also include like stuff from just like general fighting game culture as well, which is appreciated. But I imagine this is one that is a slight bit impregnable at times if you don't follow fighting games, because there's not a ton of hand holding. This isn't this isn't Ice Shield 21, which is like,
No.
in the seventh fucking match, they're like, here's what a touchdown is, just in case you forgot.
It does definitely like throw you in the deep end and expect you to swim. There's not a lot of like, oh, stuff is built up, because like even when in the early stages of the manga, when they're having that, like, oh, go and train this one move, the way that they talk about it is jargon, just so much jargon. And it's like, all right, I got the basic idea of what they're saying that she needs to do, but there is no understanding of like how this fits together. And honestly, even like, oh, set this on training mode, it's like, well, I guess it's just like she's got to know how to time when to do this one combo, I guess. I don't know exactly what it applies to, but I kind of get it. And I think that at times it's a little bit too much. But at the same time, I do think that there is something to be said for how genuine a lot of the focus on those little things is, in terms of making this feel like, no, this feels like, a fighting game thing about people who are really, really passionate about fighters, and in particular pro scenes for fighting games. There is a chapter that is all about the latest patch to the game and how it's going to affect them, because certain characters are buffed and certain characters are nerfed, and you see the different people. Because something that is very nice is that thus far all the characters main one fighter, so they're very identifiable to that character. And so Aya, mains one character, and she's like, it's been nerfed.
Yeah.
And Mio's gets buffed, and she's like, oh, and what's this new skill? And because there's this new skill that the character has, she keeps on trying to use it, and all of her friends are like, that skill's garbage. It's the risk reward is not good. You're just losing for no reason. And Aya's really mad at her because it's not as fun to play anymore, because she keeps on pulling out this garbage move on her. And then, of course, it plays into a big dramatic moment for her in the tournament itself. It's really satisfying when it happens. So I have my hangups about some little things about this series, but they are little specks amidst a giant canvas that I can't help but look at and be amazed by that something like it exists. This is, first off, a series I didn't think that we would ever actually really get in terms of, like, this was a thing that you were pitching years ago. Like, a sports series about competitive gaming.
Yeah.
And we've got that. And it's got a primarily female cast of all different types of characters who all have different sorts of relationships to each other. And despite the title, it doesn't rely too heavily on the whole, like, oh, what are girls doing playing video games and stuff? It's really just so that, all the male NPCs around them could be like, oh, a girl is playing. Oh,
yeah. Basically, if you're a named character, you respect and understand that anyone, like, regardless of gender or any definable factor, can play fighting games. But they do touch upon the fact that, like, once a woman gets onto the stream, immediately chat starts, like, objectifying them and being real weird. So I do appreciate that there's, like, a level of acknowledgement there. But yeah, you don't have to, like, go in and be like, oh, is this gonna be, like, depressing? Like, no, this is just for girls. More than that, I guess, actually, considering a lot of their rivals are also women who are just playing fighting games, and it's cool. Also, there's like, Yankee guys who get into a big fight, and, like, as that fight reaches its crescendo, they get into a footsie match when both of them are, like, really low health, and it is categorized as them revving their engines against one another on their motorcycles.
It's a game of chicken!
It's so fucking stupid and awesome.
Oh man, the fact that they're the two big figures in that tournament are like, oh, these are the two really, 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 skilled players that they're going to have to, come up against in the tournament, and they're both, like, for some reason, Yankees. Like, I don't know why. Is that a big thing?
I guess that's probably more of a Japanese thing, is to be like, hey, this is, like, kind of the result, because there's an element that is somewhat discussed. It is not entirely, like, covered through, but the idea that fighting gaming in general has taken a very dramatic shift. That these are two people who existed back at the time when there were arcades and arcade club culture. And if you read the volumes, Eri talks about this a little bit, how she was almost tempted to make this a manga about arcade clubs, but she's like, I got into fighting games later, and I didn't feel like I could authentically cover what so many people told me is, like, a wild time where, like, chairs were being thrown at people and stuff like that. But it also does start to, like, show on the idea that these like old school players are starting to have to just accept that a bunch of people are getting into it because it's popular and esports and all that sort of stuff now. And I think it's kind of cool that they're acknowledging these two different time periods. Like, as we mentioned, like, Iron Senpai is kind of an analog for Street Fighter, except the thing it doesn't have, Iron Senpai 2 is shown on a PS4 disc. It doesn't cover that period of, like, almost a decade where Capcom just didn't release any more games because they fucked things up too bad.
It is kind of funny that the most gatekeepery character is even younger than the main cast
Yeah.
of characters. Because she keeps on calling them all, it's like, you're all just fucking filthy casuals. Look at you all having friends. Friends who distract you from playing video games more.
You don't even know. One thing I also found mildly amusing is they asked uh, the one fighting game guy, I forget, Gekido, I think is his name or something like that.
Gekido, yeah.
And they ask him like, "Oh, who's your like favorite player?" and all these sorts of things. And it's very amusing to me because he's like, "I want to face." I forget the person's name, but Spike, I think he calls him like, "Ah, yes, the big player in America." And then you look at it,
Yeah.
and you're like, America is not the top fighting game
No,
esport. It's like, in fact, most of the countries that get named are not that. They're not bad, but there's quite a lot of different countries that like have representation that don't get thrown out there. That I found rather amusing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense that Japan might shortchange Korea.
I think it's just the idea. You're like, America would be involved in esports, and they're just a big country. So let's give it to you.
Yeah, I don't know who to recommend this series to. But I'm in the group. I loved the hell out of this manga. This is one of my favorite things I think that we have ever covered for the show.
Wow.
It's a unique entity, certainly, and I don't know how to explain why, but it works really, really well. I do think that it would be nice if we got kind of more of a balance of the elements instead of like kind of going hard on one thing and then hard on another thing. If there was maybe a bit more of a mix, like I said, we've been in this tournament that they've been in for a little while now, and I do kind of miss some of the elements that were in just when the girls were just kind of like at the school and hanging out and doing a bit more just like regular life stuff. Uh, and it would be nice if we got more of a mix of that. But there is still a lot of character stuff that is happening that is still really nice. And it's nice to see also like, hey, there's like some sort of direction in terms of like where each of the four girls are kind of going and what is kind of like driving them right now and what they want to do. And not just in relation to, playing games, but also just like, in general, like, one character doesn't just want to like get good at games. She wants to have something that she can be better than her sister at, just like anything. Uh, and Aya doesn't just want to like have a cool rivalry with Mio. She wants Mio to be really, really good because she admires and loves her.
She needs that spark to help her ignite herself. I think she has a quote early on where she's like, "Why do your eyes shine like diamonds?" And she's just like, "Well, I think if you're passionate about something, you'll just naturally kind of sparkle." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Damn, I need that."
I need that. I gotta get back to that thing that'll let me be that way. And it's all really compelling stuff. Some of the fights are actually really, really, really cool. Like the one that Mio has where she pulls out that garbage move at a really cool time. And it's also just seemingly like really well researched and apparently like really legitimate in terms of a lot of the stuff that it portrays. So it's just really, really good. And I'm very glad that we read it.
Yeah, I do think that I have to like go in with a caveat of like, I love this series and it hits on so many things that I love and have wanted to read. So I'm going to be super biased. I don't think this is going to necessarily be for everyone. We're talking about a sports manga, which already we are like super biased for.
True.
And then you make it even more niche, and it's like, actually, it's an esport about fighting games. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be everybody's cup of tea. But I do think this is a fun series that I think a lot of people will have fun as they read. I did see that this is announced to get an anime, but that happened back in 2021. I haven't heard anything else about it.
Yeah, and who knows what that means in terms of like timetables. There was also a live action drama adaptation
Yeah.
earlier this year.
But
so.
This is a monthly series, so you get your chunks as they come out.
Hmm.
But I have a ton of fun with this series. It's actually one of the few manga I'm reading where like the English release is like pretty close to everything else. I think it's like 6 months out or something like that. Unlike Shy, which I recommended also last week, and then someone in Discord's like, America's only up to volume 4. They're up to like volume 20 everywhere else.
Right, right.
So,
At least, yeah. At least with the official English release, the English volume is not too far behind the Japanese.
yeah.
Um, although we're not getting another volume until March, so
Yeah,
sad.
that's a bummer, but it is still very good. I would recommend checking it out. I do think there's also a lot of story left to tell. They only introduced the
Yeah.
vice principal or the vice president of the student council, so I assume the president also plays fighting games, and they'll have to encounter her once they get back to the school or something like that.
It's gonna be some sort of thing where it turns out just like it's like, oh, gaming is forbidden, and literally every girl at the school has their own fighting pad. By the way, that is a great thing as well, is that every girl has their own personal fighting pad to
Yeah.
play games because they're all hardcore fighting gamers.
One other small character I enjoy a lot is Aya's roommate, who a couple times Aya sends away because she needs to play Mio.
Yeah,
So this character fully, completely believes that the two of them are
absolutely.
in a relationship. And every time she tries to broach it, Aya is just in her fucking mind palace practicing combos.
It's one of my favorite early details is that Aya just, when she's not playing games against Mio, is just spending every spare thought that she has simulating battles against her in her head. And then Mio shows up having thought of nothing all day and it's just like, yay!
I'm better than you. You're like, God damn it.
So, yeah, it's wonderful. And I honestly, I don't care if you guys like her because I did.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more. Go buy the volumes, Seven Seas. You can find them there. It's good stuff.
Now, guys, we don't have any weekly series to talk about today, but we did bug you all to send us in some questions to answer. So let's head over to doing some Q&A. Hooray! Yip hip hooray.
Hip hip hooray. Yeah, do you want me to start this off?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sure.
Yes.
We got a question here from Jelly Elson. It says, as a nod to Toriko, what would be your full course of anime slash manga? If you haven't got enough series for a full course, that's okay. Maybe someday you'll find a series that complete it. So this is interesting. I do think a manga full course is slightly different from a food full course.
Yeah.
But I am going to try to play with it and say, like, all right, so, like, appetizer salad, you want something a little light but satisfying, something that's going to be enjoyable. So that's where I'm thinking a good spot for, like, a good comedy would be. And maybe that's where I'd get something like... trying to think, what's a comedy I'd really enjoy in there? Not Amanda's Cat. That's too sad. I'm gonna be crying. Crying over appetizers again? They'll never let me back at that Applebee's.
So, I can go ahead and tell you that I don't have like an actual structure to mine. It's just going to be like, kind of. This will be more of a like, manga to get to know me kind of thing, I guess. I Show 21, like that's got to be in there. World Trigger, because despite everything, like I mean, that's the one that means a lot to me. Let's see. Oh, gosh, I feel like I would be being dishonest to myself if Bleach were not in there. And it's not as a matter of like, oh, this is one of my favorite things, but it's a matter of like, it's this thing that's like, it's core to me. I feel like My Hero would have been on there at one point, and I don't think that you can take stuff off of your
yeah,
full
once
course,
the
so
little
I think
animation goes on to like
can't
cement
take
it
it off
in there,
there.
it's in there.
So I think it's still in there, even though
Unless
I feel like
I think Sunny
can
can kick it off. Sunny can kick it away.
Right, it wasn't locked in before he did that. So I don't know. Um, let's see. I do feel like I do need something kind of funnier in there
I,
as
I
well.
I think this is not the best example of a comedy, but it's one I think I do enjoy on that level of it being very light, which would be like a Me and Roboco, where I
Hmm.
do just get to have something that's, light and silly and makes fun of something I know about. And then I kind of want to just play with genres. It had to be One Piece for like a battle manga. I think for something that captures something a little hard, you like Meiruko-chan. I think for sports, it would probably be Ice Shield 21, although Haikyuu might be like right alongside it at this point. Um,
Until I get that. Yeah.
I think you'd have to put World Trigger in there somewhere. And then, like, when you get to the end, I feel like you just want something that you can relax to. And it's obviously too soon to do something like this. Like, I was going to be like, young ladies don't play fighting. I don't know if it's necessarily that slam dunk. But I do think, like, something light, there are a lot of options for that. Um, even maybe that's where a man and his cat is. You can cry over dessert. At that point, you've already eaten all the food, so they can't kick you out of the restaurant. Again, Applebee's. That's another lesson I learned there.
Uh, please don't tease me, Nagatoro.
Oh,
That I think that'd be one for me. That's just something that I think like, especially because like that's a series that now I watch the anime with Nicole, so it also means more to me now because it's like it's a really weird series that we both enjoy watching together. Um,
in
God,
in pairing with that, I think my version of that would be Comey Can't Communicate, because that's
absolutely,
a
yeah, that's a
series
great,
that I think
yeah.
was like nice and easy digestion at the end.
Right. And that's I think that is the nice thing about having the approach of like I don't necessarily know about like laying things out in order, but yeah, having not it's not just like, oh, these are my favorite things. It's like different things that like mean kind of like that core thing to me. So it's like, oh, like my favorite series, like my full course would have, or if you will, would be I Shield 21. But it's like, I'm not just gonna say like, oh, and everything else that is just like it. It's like, it was like, well, no, this is like one of my favorite comedies. This one, I feel like, honestly, like I think it is a little bit too recent for me to say like Blue Box or something like that would be on there, but like it's definitely on its way there right now with how consistent it's been and how it presents that particular element of like that heartwarming, just very sweet romance that it does. Uh, so yeah, and it would be a little bit easier if I could legitimately say something like Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's like it's not the manga that does that for me though.
Yeah.
So can't really do that.
I might echo what Corito Prime is saying. World Trigger is the dessert, if only because he never finished dessert. So the fact that it's incomplete is actually very fitting.
And for my dessert, Detective Conan.
Yeah. It's a big dessert. You're like, and a side of skip beat, if you would.
My God, that one's still going too. You're right. Oh man, we might have to go back to that when that actually finishes. Jesus Christ!
I think we need to go back to it. I've been quietly reading it to myself, just like buying volumes every so often. I've forgotten it for a while now. I had to get back on it. But it is wild how many. I was up to like 16, 17 volumes. I'm like, we haven't even gotten to the point where we finished it in the podcast, and there's still over half of this series left. Like, I know I'm getting close to where we stopped, but there's still so much more left.
Right. The fact that there's 12 more years after that point is hard to wrap your head around. Okay. Yeah.
Good question.
I feel like that's definitely a good thought exercise. All right. Question from Ninja X3i. Is a multi-part question. One, what battle series in the recap, past or present, would you want to see a non-battle series spin-off for? And vice versa. So, like a battle series you want to see a non-battle spin-off, and a non-battle series you want to see a battle spin-off of.
So, it's tough because battle, I feel like, comes very close to like also covering adventure series.
Hmm.
Like, not necessarily ones that have like fights as the primary thing, but like, conflict and combat would be a factor. Not necessarily like we're squaring off, we have to develop techniques. But if it was the idea of an adventure series, I do think the Toriko world had a lot of like cool, weird world building to it that would be fun to just see a character try to survive. Kind of like, hey, we got the puffer fish, but then, or we got the Century Soup, but Tommy Rod doesn't show up at the end of it for a big fight. They're just like, hey, it was just really tough to get this soup or whatever.
No, I totally get that. Yeah. It's I consider a battle series to be something where fighting is a major component of it, and I think that the line that I would have the difficulty determining it would be a series like Spy Family, where it's like, well, fighting does happen in this, but I don't know if I would call it a battle series.
Yes. I agree with that. Um, Spy Family. Would you want to see a more battle-oriented Spy Family?
Nah,
Because we got a
nah,
little bit of a taste with that when like Yor was on the
right.
boat and stuff like that, but yeah.
I like the balance that it strikes more when it leans towards the comedy, and I think that that is kind of a thing that it's like that actually helps me to like answer that in terms of like, well, wait, we've seen when the series becomes more of a battle series, and not always it doesn't always work. So I prefer it being more silly. So um, let me see, where's some like non-battle stuff that we've
This
covered.
this might be wrong. This might be wrong to say. But for a non-battle series to become a battle series, I'd almost be curious to see The Promised Neverland. To actually go through with it and just have this idea that Emma has to fight these monsters or whatever, or like Ray or somebody like that. You'd have to change a lot of the philosophy of the series.
Right.
But in that way that like it felt like 7 characters had to work together to like defeat Luvis. Like if you just played more into that, like, oh my god, they're these big crazy battle like creatures. We have to find a way to like try to like overcome them with wits and stuff like that. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like people start shooting energy blasts or anything, but this idea of like creating more structure around that.
No, yeah, I definitely I see your point. And I feel
I think it's bad.
I feel like for that to work, you would actually have to revisit the whole like saving everyone thing and then actually follow through on it.
Yeah.
Unlike what they did where it was just like, "Oh no,
Now those guys
someone
wanted to die.
died.
They weren't. They were actually robots, and it's okay to
I
let
guess we'll
robots
just,
die.
keep going like nothing happened."
No, Ted, Morty? Question mark.
Oh, the guy with the hat.
Ah, I love that guy. He was my favorite.
Remember when Ted was hanging out with us in this bunker and he did that thing.
He did that thing. Oh, that thing was so cool.
Oh, thank God that the fourth most important character, that girl who came with us to get the medicine, didn't die.
Whoa, we're gonna shit on Anna like that? No, what was her name? Shit.
What was her name?
The girl with hat promised Neverland.
No. That was what, Jillian? I think it was.
Jillian,
Not her.
Oh,
Not her.
okay.
No, the girl who was like the fourth most popular in the popularity poll.
Oh God.
Not Phil.
I'm gonna have to look up. I know the one you're talking about now, and I'm like, I can't for the life of me remember their name. Goldie Pond. They were one of the Goldie Pond characters, right?
No, she was part of the Gracefield kids. She
Oh
was
my
there forever,
God.
and she never did anything.
Oh my goodness. Gracefield House Kids.
What have we done?
I'm like trying to. These are the characters who were shipped out. This is the orphan. There was another one with a hat.
No, she didn't have a hat. It was. Was it? Hang on.
Oh,
No, it
is it
wasn't
the
her.
one who was shipped with the guy who was Gilda? The one who was shipped with Don? Like they were like, we're also
No,
important to
no,
this
no,
story.
not her, not her, Quinn.
Damn.
Ah,
The only
hang
other
on.
ones I've seen are Anna.
I
Oh
think
my
it's Anna.
God. I forgot that they had a black character named Jemima. I really, that was a detail my brain had forgotten about.
It was Anna. I'm thinking of Anna. She was like the fourth most popular character in one of the polls, and she never did anything.
Oh my God.
Anyway, if you ever needed further extrapolation why the Promised Neverland started to get bad, there you go. So there it is. There is my take on your answer.
Thank you.
We would have to stick to an actual philosophy in order for that to work.
Oh, Ninja didn't specify that, so I can rewrite the manga to be good, right?
Oh, okay.
I can just
well,
make it better.
If we're rewriting series to be good, Sakamoto Days.
Oh my God! Damn. Nick's ruthless.
Sorry, let me put those away. Let me put both barrels away. Honestly, I think for something to have a take as a battle series that I think might be interesting. What about I think like Nisekoi might be interesting because it did have like some battle elements, kind of, because like Chitoge was weirdly physically strong and Sugumi was an assassin, and there was also
Clyde.
Paula,
Paula,
I think was
Paula
her
was a
name.
character, yeah. Paula White or something like that.
I think it was.
Or
I mean, it was basically
I think
that.
Was the. Could be
So like maybe just like make it a full on like all the girls that are into Ichiraku, I think was his name. Raku Ichijo. Yeah. Like just like all the girls who are into Raku are various like crazy martial arts girls or have like unique powers and stuff, and they get into like fighting situations. And I'm just describing Negima.
I was gonna say, Nick, I feel like we're coming very close to another franchise.
Pretty sure that is just flat up Negima, except that I haven't pitched Raku as being a mage kid. He can still be a mafia boss, okay? That's how we distinguish. Any battle series that you wish that you would want to see a non-battle series version of?
I mean, again, if you're willing to let me very much blend what is defined as a battle manga, if we just kept Bleach to like before 1,000 Shinigami got introduced and it was just about fighting ghosts, that's still, I guess, pretty much a battle manga though.
No, yeah, I get that. We could finally get to know some of the other characters that were in that class, like Kunieda, the president who was also part of the track and field club.
I assume you made up a character just now.
I did not make that up. There is, in fact, a scene where it's like the only scene where she does anything. She and her friend Michiru come across Kon while he's in his plush body, and he tries to run away from them, and she's like, "You won't get away from me," and she sprints after him.
Is she the girl who's like aggressively lesbian?
That's
a different
Chizuru.
one. Yeah,
that's Chizuru. Yeah. Bleach had a nice cast before they went to Soul Society. It's just. Yes, that was just me flexing while Tekking's not around. So
it's just me seeing over there, like, remember Whoop Slap?
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I think I would just go with My Hero Academia, honestly. I think that that's an easy answer because there's so many people who just want to see like 1A kids do stuff together and don't really care about all this one for all for one bullshit.
Nick just wants Sky High.
Honestly, you say that's a great movie.
Yeah.
That is true. I would not call Chizuru a nice character. No, she was.
So I said aggressively. She was not a
She was problematic as sin. So,
Yeah.
uh,
There's a question 2 here.
yes, there is a second question from Ninja here. I tabbed off to something else. Sorry. Da, 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 da. How would a meeting between Edwin? God damn it. How would a meeting between Edwin Madara, Foghorn Leghorn Yuhabak, Magu-chan, hashtag Ray, and Kitora and Osamu from World Trigger to My Heart and Backdoor go? So specifically the versions of Kitora and Osamu from World Trigger to My Heart and Backdoor. So all those characters meet up. What would they talk about?
Well, Nick, I think it would go a little something like this. Oh my goodness! I don't remember what Madara did. I'm Edwin, and I have magic eyeballs. That's what Madara did, I think, right? I'm also Ladros from Black Clover.
I say, I've also got the magic eyeballs. In fact, I've got plenty of magic eyeballs. My entire face is a magic eyeball, if you will, son.
Oh my god, you guys talking about magic eyeballs? Are you not talking about magic brains that can remember all of their baby memories? What fucking losers? What fucking saps?
Can these baby memories provide me with sustenance and nutrients?
Oh my god. That ooze on the ground is talking. I knew I shouldn't have gotten into slime.
Are you all here for the orgy? You all have to be quick because my other boyfriend Zapdos will be here soon.
Oh, I don't like it when Zapdos shows up. My hair stands in the back of my head, and also I get a seizure. Not from the electricity, but from his monster cock. There you go. That was all the popular characters. They showed up and they had a good time. And then a meteor fell on them.
Yeah, they're all dead now. Yes, that's canon now.
We got thank you, good question, Sandra. We got something here from Corito Prime who says a new Q&A must be 2024 already. Gotcha, bitch. It's 2023 still. This time I have 2 questions for you. A couple years ago, Viz released an all-in-one edition of Death Note with all 100 chapters in a single volume, and the thing sucked ass because it's only as thick as 3 regular volumes with a metric volume of 2 regular volumes. That said, my 2 questions are: 1, what is the most you've ever been disappointed in a special edition, either a manga or piece of media? Or 2, if you could get a thick, girthy, heavy-ass all-in-one release of any manga series, what would that be? Personally, I think a massive Full Metal brick that you could use to kill a man would be cool.
Interesting. I don't go in for collecting things. So special editions, collector's editions and stuff, like I just kind of like see the stuff and I'm like, all right, that's cool. If I own it already, I'm not getting it again. If I didn't own it, it's because it already wasn't something I was interested in getting, and it being a special edition is probably not going to influence me to get it. If there is ever a special edition of iShield 21, then that will mean that there is a manga of iShield 21 that I can get, so yes. I'll get that.
My special edition is very much the same way. Like, if I could get any one thing as a special edition, it's just like the manga that are notoriously difficult to get nowadays. I would just want iShield 21 pretty much, and then if I could get like a convenient way to have, I don't even want a physical version. I want a special collector's digital version of 20th Century Boys, so I could just read it. I just want to read it again. But as for a special edition or something, I'm also like you. I don't tend to buy it. But I was a super big Mass Effect fan, so when Mass Effect 3 came out, I got the Steelbook version of it, and I always regretted that decision. 1, because Mass Effect 3 wasn't particularly good, but also because it fucked with my mind because it was the only Steelbook in my list of games. Every game had like a uniformity to them, and it was all fucked up because there was just this big gray slab in the middle that's like, no, that's Mass Effect 3. It doesn't say it on the outside, or it just looks bad. So yeah.
Yeah, as someone who likes to organize things, like this was a thing that I didn't realize was weird about me until like very much more recently in my life is just that I like to just like have a bunch of uniform things and then just sort them.
Yes.
That would drive me insane to have the one thing that I could not freely put in like alphabetical order or release order or anything like that. It would just stand out like a sore thumb. So I absolutely understand that fucked with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have actually a story about my worst special edition because this is just kind of an embarrassing youth story for Nick.
Ooh, I love those.
There was some birthday or Christmas or something. We were gifted a like anniversary edition of The Jungle Book, the Disney film.
Okay.
It was long enough ago that it was on VHS, so it was probably something like, the 35-year anniversary of the movie or something like that. Not even like a particularly special anniversary for it. But, it was this VHS, we got in the packaging and stuff, and I was like, oh, new movie. And I opened it up and put it in to watch it, and my parents were really upset with me, or my mom was really upset with me because she was like, we already have the Jungle Book on VHS. We could have returned that. There's nothing important on that tape that is worth us keeping. We were just going to get $20 for it. So that's my most disappointing special edition because I don't have a lot that I would have ever bothered to purchase in the first place.
Good little Nick tale there. There is a second part of this thing, which I don't enjoy because Corito Prime said 2 questions, gave us 2 questions, and then it's like, oh, one more thing. Like, all right, Uncle from Jackie Chan, chill out. Second, we are reopening the cancel manga relocation program for orphanage characters. So, if you could take any character from a canceled recap series and put them in one currently running series, who and in what series would you put them in? For me, I would take Baloo from Red Hunter and put him in, I guess, Blue Box, so I have a reason to read that series.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Let me look at our list of canceled series in here because we've got this.
I had to remember the character's name, but I would say, Abaku Inagumi from Gakyu Hote and put them into Cypher Academy. Like, it'd be very curious to see this character in there.
That would be a great combination. That sounds like a phenomenal idea. That's a good one.
And Magu-chan. I don't count Magu-chan as a canceled series the same way, though.
No, not in the
But I want more Magu-chan. Is that also a valid answer?
I guess. I mean, you can claim it is. Let's see here. Let me scroll back a little ways to.
Ninja has a good one. Gavaldin from Neolation. Put them somewhere else.
Guardian of the Witch. High School Family. God. What
about Hell Warden Haguma, Nick? You love that series.
Don't remind me.
Nick, what about Noah's Notes? You could bring back one of the characters from Noah's Notes.
Was that a thing we read?
That was back when we just got like 3 chapters of a series, and we got 3 chapters of Noah Notes, and then it didn't come back.
Right, Neolation, Last Sayuki. There were some nice characters in Last Sayuki, but I don't know. I don't have anything that I feel like I'm super passionate about. I'm not gonna come up with a better idea than bring someone in from Gakyu Hote. So yeah, anyone from Gakyu Hote and put them in Cypher Academy. Honestly,
yeah. Good questions, Corito.
Yeah, great. Let's go on to the next one. This is from Ota. Dear Nick It and Quinquaval, let's hope I remember to put more than one question this time. 1! If Earthchild was allowed to run for 100 chapters, that's a great way of putting that. If Earthchild was allowed to run for 100 chapters, where do you think the plot would go? That's an interesting way of looking at things. They started off by going to space. Where do you go from there?
I do think there are stock things you could go for that wouldn't be particularly creative, like evil organization, and then since we already established Earth children exist, just an evil Earth child. Like those just feel like kind of easy concepts to like throw in there, but none of them feel particularly inspired, which is never something I could accuse Earth Child of. It was always very distinctly stupid in its own way.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Okay, so we have a kind of a two-parter to this question. Nick, you come up with a negator ability, but then Quinn gets to come up with the tragedy to go with it, and vice versa.
Ooh.
Ooh. Okay. I literally am looking at a list of unwords just to give myself some ideas for this. Just hang on. Sorry, I'm gonna ruin this now. Ununderstanding.
Ununder. So it would negate your ability to understand.
It would, yes. It would negate the ability to comprehend, which would actually be a great counter to a lot of negator abilities, because interpretation and understanding is a lot of what defines how they work, as we've seen as people's abilities have evolved.
I mean, this one's simple then. It's that, like, you're working... This is... Nick in this universe, of course, has, like, a high-profile construction job. One of those things where, like, you have giant pieces of machinery around. And it activates, and your employee no longer remembers how to operate this giant crane, and it drops a piano onto... I was gonna say your dog, but you hate dogs, so I guess your cat.
All right, I can live with this.
No, it's gonna be a cat in this scenario.
Oh no!
It's gotta be horrifying.
This horrible tragedy.
No matter what you throw at me, somehow your cat's getting crushed by an anvil at the end of this. Man. I would say unimaginable.
So it's just kind of like a defiance of reality kind of thing, or
yeah, I think it creates, it allows people to not do what is expected. Like, you can't imagine that thing happening, so you just can't allow it to happen. It's like almost a probability affecting negator power.
I think that this would actually be very deep and tragic. It would be someone who is, well, you in this universe would be like some sort of like aspiring like political or celebrity figure, someone who is like very inspirational and stuff, and is always about like, you know, set your eyes on the horizon, you know, you can see the world ahead of you and there's a world of possibility and stuff. And then when the negator ability kicks in, it negates your ability to see the positives, or negates the ability of people around you to see the positives. They no longer believe in that shining example of what you can accomplish, and so you lose out on this opportunity to, like, you know, improve the world, because all the people you're trying to help, they can't see the potential benefits to anything anymore, so they don't have hope to actually try and do stuff.
And then my cat gets crushed by an anvil.
Yeah, because of all of that, the anti-anvil defense network that you
were we spent so long putting that task force together, they disbanded.
And so all the anvils you're going to test it on, they all fall on all the cats.
Oh no, I hate this. Oh, what a tragedy.
That was a really interesting question. I like that. But we got a third one from Ota, which is: take one of your favorite manga series and make one change to turn it into absolute dog shit. And it's cheating if you put in a creep or a syscon, so don't do that. So
take one of our favorite series and make it absolute dog shit.
Yeah, I can do this very easily because we've made reference to it multiple times already. I show 21. You have Senna start off by being Echizen, and he's just automatically perfect, and he doesn't have any inferiority complexes to work through. He doesn't have anything about, needing to prove himself to people and prove that turn the lies into truth. He doesn't have problem making friends and stuff. He's just an arrogant asshole who wins all the time, and that's it.
Yeah.
Ruined.
Yeah, that could be pretty bad. I think this feels mean, but in a similar way that it feels like it could have ruined another series with a similar premise, if you just put a romantic relationship with Akane and one of her male sort of like senpai characters, I think that character takes a real big downturn.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, it does. And I guess that is a little bit of going for the creepy angle, but
I'm not saying it has to be one of like the 70-year-old men or whatever who exist in that series, but even her getting together with like one of the like senpais like at her level or whatever, that I feel like that would really...
like even like Kaisei,
Yeah.
you know, someone who's just like a couple years older is like, okay, yeah.
All right.
I'm happy with that.
All right, so we got here...
Or rather, I'm unhappy with that, which I guess is the point of the question.
It's all about our displeasure. So we got a question here from Naf4. It says, Dear Quinn, we know WMR has had its problems in the past with hosts not being able to make the show because of their pesky mortality. So to address this problem, I've developed and Nickbot 3000, programmed for snark, loading catalog, Akane Banashi, Black Clover, Boruto, error, kill. That was the whole...
I mean, it's a stunning likeness, I gotta say.
Nick's like, so I don't need to show up next week then, right?
Yeah.
This is bad. This is bad. So a few months ago, I read the chapter where Law and his crew got the gender virus, and I thought, this is, I forget about this all the time. This is something someone with a transformation fetish would write. And I went, oh shit, Oda has a transformation fetish. I immediately felt stupid because it's not like it's been subtle about it throughout his career. An entire third of his Devil Fruits focus on furry transformation. So my question in relation is this. Has it ever taken you way longer to realize something than it should have? Not like an incident that happened to you one day, but something that took you like months or years to realize.
Definitely. What was the thing? And it's about like all sorts of different things. Like as I've gotten more aware of the fact that I was, raised as a upper middle income white guy, I've come to slowly realize like certain things just in my regular life, just are that way. The really weird ones are when I realize like certain terminology is bad. Like when I realize like, wait a minute, does to be gypped come from the fact that people were mistrusting of gypsies? I was like, oh my god, it is! Fuck!
A lot of my vernacular interactions every day is saying a turn of phrase and then being like, is that problematic? I start to analyze it again. It took me forever because like I was like, oh, they're such a shyster, and I was like, oh, that must be a slur. That must be. I searched for so long to be like, is shyster a slur? And I think it's not, but I'm ready to be proven wrong because it just sounds wrong.
Right. So there is that. But there are also like certain things that I will realize about, like, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember like one that's like, a design element about something. Honestly, like there will be like Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I'll look at after just having seen them thousands of times and be like, wait a minute, the marionette in Magical Marionette isn't the guy in the background controlling the puppet. It is the puppet. That's the marionette, and that's the puppeteer. Dumb. There. So it goes from very innocuous and dumb like that to realizing that entire elements of how I talk have problematic origins.
Yes.
So,
has it ever taken you way longer to realize something that it should have? I'm trans and I didn't start transitioning until I was 31 years old. So yes, it did. Thank you.
Yeah.
On
I'm
that
very happy
note,
for you.
thank you. On that note, and since I brought up transformation fetish, I'm a big fan of the author Jack Chalker, an author I like to refer to as one of sci-fi's weird uncles. He was a well-liked popular writer among those who read him. He made some good stuff, but like the weird, fun uncle you have, it's kind of awkward to bring him up because you had to discuss what he does for a living. All of his really notable novels involve some level of transformation to varying degrees because you could tell it's just his fetish. But everything I've read from him has been either well written or just wild wides that have fun being weird. But I can't casually recommend him to people because I know I'd get weird looks that if I had to describe any of his books in details. So, where I'm going with this, have you ever had a similar problem to this? Is there a piece of media or creator you love but are anxious of recommending to others because you feel like you'll be judged or you just want to avoid the awkward looks? This is my experience with almost all manga to a non-manga audience.
Even to get into that level, I'm not going to give any details on this. I'm going to keep this incredibly vague in terms of timelines and everything else. There is an adult game that I have played at some point, and I'm talking about
Acro the Acrobat.
No,
Okay.
an adult.
We're
We're
narrowing it down.
An adult computer game
Okay.
that featured sexual content that I think that even outside of the adult content is worth like checking out because the story in the game is actually kind of really good. But because of the nature of said game, I have never discussed it outside of a group of incredibly close friends who share the interest in it specifically. So, yes, is the answer.
Nick's like, this thing's great, but I don't trust any of you motherfuckers, so you're never
None
gonna
of
know.
you. None of you. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think that's just the thing. It's like, I don't know, wrestling is hard to recommend. Some video games can be extremely
All y'all
hard
trying to guess it. Stop it. Stop. You're not going to guess it. Even if you do guess it, I'm not going to give you any confirmation.
This is like your fan fiction account all over again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're never going to find... I will sooner share that than I will share what this game is.
Wow. Will you tell me off mic?
Sure.
Oh, wow. Okay, I really expected you to be like, no, this is going to my grave. This actually, before we move on, I do want to talk. Do you think Oda has a transformation fetish? I never really picked up on that myself. But I'm also not into transformation stuff, so I don't really know what it would look like.
Right. If you're not into it, maybe you don't know the signs in terms of that. So, I don't know. Maybe it appears to be more obvious to someone who is into that kind of thing. I've seen like some for kink transformation artwork before, and when I look at it, I just goes like, well, yeah, that the person with that figure turned into that differently shaped thing. Okay, I guess if you're into it, cool. So I don't know what to watch out for. I don't know. Even though I've seen all these transformations that he has, yes, drawn. Could he? Yes, but also he might just think it's funny because he's Oda.
That's the tough thing is like how much of it is Oda intentionally doing something and how much it is of just being like the small thing is big now. And then he puts it in his manga.
Like it's like at this there's all sorts of stuff where it's like, you look at, certain characters that he has featured where it's like, oh, Oda seems like a pretty, tolerant guy. But I don't think he really gets it in a lot of senses. I think that he just, likes, people being weird and different from each other. I don't know if he has a specific political inclinations associated with a lot of different levels of tolerance beyond the very obvious, don't be a racist. So, yeah. It's hard to tell.
Well said. All right, Nick, you're up.
Next up is from Molderman. Hiya, Nick. Hiya, Quinn. As you might know, Manga Plus has gotten some great exclusive series. A lot of them get released on Tuesday, It's gotten to the point where many Discord users refer to them as the Tuesday manga, and there are weeks where they give the Shonen Jump titles a serious run for their money. So based on nothing but the title, what do you think of the following Tuesday Manga Plus series are about? Okay, so we're just gonna, I guess,
We're gonna
with no
make an
context.
assumption. Now, I'll note, I do have context for the first one. I don't know if I
Okay.
could tell you what it's about, but I think I could tell you the ballpark. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, first one is marriage toxin. A one word, all caps. I imagine that there has to be some sort of marriage involved. I don't know if it is a comedy or if it is very distressing, though. Like, it can only be one of those two, I feel like.
From what I think this series is, it's about someone. It's about like kind of bad people and a guy. I don't know if it's a guy who has multiple wives or just multiple different relationships. There's multiple women, I think, because I feel like I've heard people talk about like this new girl has come in or like this new person they're talking about or something like that. And I guess there's just like a level of badness to some of these people, but like in a kind of fun way. I don't feel like people are talking about it in like a very dramatic way, and I could be very, very wrong about that.
Do you want to like do a thing where I'll like look up like the plot synopsis after we make our guesses and we can see how accurate we are?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm just going off of the Wikipedia for this real quick. All right. Plot summary. Hikaru Gero is a young man from the Poison Clan of professional assassins, which has been in existence for hundreds of years. Because he deals with the dark side of society and has never lived a normal life, he considers himself to have no prospects with women and no interest in marriage. But one day, the Poison Clan states that if he does not marry and produce an heir to carry on their lineage, they will force his sister into bearing a child against her wishes. Wanting to save his younger sister from such a fate, Gero asks one of his assassination targets to marry him. When the cross-dressing marriage swindler Mei Kinosaki declines, he instead has Kinosaki train him to date and how to appeal to women with the goal of finding someone he truly wants to marry.
I feel like I was relatively on not on point, but I was in the ballpark.
That's a lot. All right. Next is the manga series Diamond in the Rough. This obviously is the manga adaptation of the Disney Aladdin movie. Come on, guys. Yeah. The diamond in the rough.
I think, alternatively, this is a baseball manga where you're diamond, like a baseball diamond, and the rough is because all of the players are beast people. Furries, you could say. There's a little sex in this one. There's just a little sex. Not a lot, but there's a little tasteful amounts of sex in this one.
Okay, good to know. All right, here's the plot summary. This wasn't on Wikipedia, so
baseball. Come on, baseball.
I had to go on Jump Fandom because Wikipedia didn't actually have a plot summary. Plot: a world where stone is at the center. Akaboshi, an ore craftsman, visits an underground village and meets a boy whose left foot is petrified.
It's a baseball.
The boy's goal is to find the man with the 3-line piercing, but he holds a secret. The two of them set off on a journey to save his family by playing baseball. There you go.
Yeah! 2 for 2! Well, that's unfortunate. I think there was real potential with my version of Diamond in the Rough.
Think you're right. Yeah, I agree.
Get the right artist for it. I can take off. Beastars is very popular, and there's like no animal sex in that until the end.
Next up is Make the Exorcist Fall in Love. This has got to be some sort of like romantic comedy series, right? Like there is no way that it's not, right?
Let's see. Can I find a way to interpret this title in a way that's not just some Exorcist romantic comedy sort of thing? No. The Exorcist Fall in Love. What if it is about a really big hole? Think like bottomless trap hole from Yu-Gi-Oh, but there is a bottom. And at the bottom is like a new culture of people. So the idea is to make the exorcist fall in love. You just keep pushing him down this hole deeper and deeper until he finds somebody he can truly love. And that's how we make them fall in love. Also, some baseball gets played part of the way through, just as a way to like break up some time, get some levity in there.
Yeah, you gotta have it. Yeah, when the series is like, oh man, I gotta get like 3 more volumes out of this in order to make my contract. All right, just throw another baseball
They gotta
match
do
in
a
there.
baseball episode. Come on, Dragon Ball did a baseball episode. Jujutsu
Plot
Kaisen did
progression
one. You can
rise
do
to a
one.
halt. Yeah. The actual plot summary centers around a nameless priest who, from birth, has been trained and abused by the Catholic Church to defeat demons, to the point that he followed the Bible literally and cast his eye out while fighting the demon of lust. Advised by his mentor that he is too self sacrificial, the Church receives a message from Satan saying that he intends for the creator of the Gallery of Evil to visit him in Gehenna. The Gallery of Evil turns out to be an art exhibition featuring demons falling in love, and is tasked by the church to protect Imuri Atsuki, the artist, from Satan's minions. Imuri is kind and loving towards the priest, but this is because Imuri holds a secret.
Doesn't mention
right.
anything about a hole. Like a big hole they get pushed down at any point.
No, but there is a mention of baseball.
Damn! All right, well, I'll give myself one. That's 2.5.
2.5. Yeah. Next is Magie Lumiere Co. Limited. So this is obviously the spin-off of Beauty and the Beast, the Disney movie, where Lumiere establishes his own company.
He establishes an LLC, but he doesn't call it that.
Yeah,
he does not understand the business terms that he's signing contracts for.
He just goes for the one that sounds the fanciest.
He's like, oh, I am an LLC now. I can buy anything I wanted, right? It's all. I want 100 escargots. Oh. And one of those, how you say, baseballs.
How have you made Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast even Frencher? This doesn't seem like it should be possible. Should we just go straight to the summary? Is that are you co-signing my summary?
Yeah, I'm gonna go on board with you on that.
All right. The story takes place in a world where being a magical girl is a popular profession that involves exterminating mysterious creatures called kai. New college graduate Kana Sakuragi, who is struggling with job hunting, is able to put her excellent memory to use and helps magical girl Koshigaya exterminate a kai in an emergency. Happy she has finally been useful, Sakuragi ends up becoming the second magical girl at Magie Lumiere, the magical girl startup company that Koshigaya works at. In addition to the prodigy Koshigaya, Magie Lumiere is composed of its president Koji Shigemoto, a middle-aged man who dresses as a magical girl, Kaede Midorikawa, who deals with customers, and magic engineer Kazuo Nikoyama.
Okay.
So it's apparently a satire series.
I can get on board with that. Sounds somewhat interesting.
Sounds interesting. And last but not least on the list that Molderman has offered us to guess the summary, Hokkaido gals are super adorable.
Okay, so the hook in this one is obviously you're like, oh, it's like a romantic comedy, maybe like a harem series about a bunch of Hokkaido girls or something like that. It's not actually. It's about these Hokkaido girls who are super adorable. Keyword on super. That's right. These girls fight crime. There is a world-ending threat coming, and these young ladies have to use their powers to help stop it, because there is no one left in this world to stop what is coming for it. There is a threat coming that no one else, no army, even all the armies combined, they stand no chance against. But these girls are our last best defense against this threat. Also, this is a world where baseball has never been invented. There is nothing. This is a dour, serious manga devoid of any joy.
This is a very deep cut you're making right now. Okay, so the actual summary is that it's about a guy who goes to Hokkaido and meets a gyaru girl named Minami Fuyuki, who takes a liking to him, and he finds her really attractive, and it's a cutesy romantic comedy series.
Yeah, I guess that's good too.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well,
No mention of baseball, which could mean you're exactly right about baseball not existing.
Doesn't mean that my suggestion was wrong. So, questions, Boulder Man? Ota has a question here. Dear Nicosi and Quinosi, always
God
great.
damn it.
Which one do you like better, Nicosi or Quinosi?
I'm not going to answer that
Okay.
question.
In light of the recent disaster that was the Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer
Oh
anime,
my god. Oh, I tried watching that. Oh, it was so bad.
are there any manga you love that you hope never get adapted?
um, ooh. I if we're talking about like the same level of quality because and thinking that that might happen because of like the level of popularity that the series has, probably like Tepu. Like if Tepu got adapted to that level, I would be horrified. It just it was so bad. It was so bad. It like all of the best scenes from that manga had no impact. That you know that like first major like character death that's like heartbreaking and like oh man I just got to know this guy and now he's dead. No impact in the anime. It's just like well that happened. It's terrible.
That's a bummer.
It really was.
Series I definitely would not want to at that point. I'm trying to think of a manga I have that like never has gotten any kind of adaptation whatsoever. That's tough. Most of the stuff I've read has adaptations, like the stuff I remember. I'm gonna say I hope at some point that like Akane Banashi, if it's gonna get that level, does it get? I feel like that's a series that I feel like you need to kind of figure out the right way to execute that. Ooh, or PPPPP. If it was gonna get a bad adaptation, like someone was like, "I want to do this thing," it's like, do you have an idea on how you want to do it? Because this is a little spicy of a prospect to make one of, something like that. There are continuations of that question. Since you guys aren't super anime people, any manga that you think can't be adapted to anime, like it just won't work in any other medium?
Well, I'm kind of inspired by the thing that is followed up on here. I think that honestly, PPP, the visual style would be really weird to see in anime. I think that as bizarre as it is, that like, you know, a medium without sound, having a story that prominently features music, being adapted to one of the that would probably feature music would probably ruin the adaptation. The visuals are just like too weird and too striking in still form that I think that seeing it animated, you would have to completely change what the visuals actually are in order for it to work.
Yeah, I agree. Question 2. PPPPPPP is back. Pokemon. Just to save time, make it more fair. Nick, choose a random Pokemon and make a PPPPPP puzzle for Quinn to solve. I know you don't know too much, but do your best.
What the fuck, dude? That's like not cool.
Nick, just do it. Just come up with the puzzle on the spot.
I fortunately read ahead in order to see this, so I do have something prepared. Okay. This is going to be kind of easy, but remember, I came up with this in less than a minute. So, purple
Zapdos.
Purple poltergeist with parted palms plays pranks.
Oh, it's Haunter.
That's Haunter, baby.
It's Haunter with his big old tongue. Good one there. Now, audience, it's up to you to do the rest. Send us a whole bunch. You get no money for it. And we will read it on air, but with our mics muted. So you'll just see our reactions.
Oh, that's content right there.
Yep. It's all about being innovative. Innovative is a synonym for stupid, right?
All right, we have a string of questions here from Now 4. Dear Nick, it's good to be back. What the hell happened here? And Quinn throwing away the still smoking head of Nickbot 3000. Don't worry, I handled it. I asked it why Bowling for Soup did a cover of I Ran for the opening of the Saint Seiya in 2003. Yes, both of these emails were in fact an excuse to do a callback to the 10 worst dub openings bonus episode. Speaking of which, are there any bonus episodes you've done that you want to do a sort of sequel episode to, such as 10 more worst dub openings? First off, that was not the worst dub openings. That was the best dub openings.
If you
I will
recall,
remind you.
Great Ideas was there, and he had a lot to say.
It basically, like, are there any, like, you know, lists that we've done that we want to do a rehash of?
Sure.
I think we like to do different spins on things usually.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a difference between like being like, oh, I wonder if I redid my top 10 villains list, would I put new people on it?
right.
Or like, can I find a way to like narrow it down or change it up or whatever? I think the only one I've ever come close to really being like, this is like a direct sequel to is instead of doing the top 10 anime openings, because we did that, doing like top 10 anime songs, like character themes or something like that.
Yeah, I've thought about doing that. Like, I think I proposed at one point, like, oh, like top 10, like, yeah, soundtrack songs or insert songs or something.
Yeah,
because there's some very good stuff that's not the opening or ending of the anime. So. Since we're talking sort of sequels, here's something that kind of led off from my question about good but awkward to talk about: writers. Is there a writer creator that you have a low opinion about, but has surprised you with making something that you find genuinely excellent? For me, it is Hiroya Oku, the creator of Gantz. Besides some legitimately good moments the series had where it wasn't being as edgelordy as possible, he also made Inuyashiki, a series about an old man becoming cyborg Jesus while a teenager becomes a sci-fi slasher killer. While there are some edgelord moments early on, it becomes a genuinely mature, thoughtful, and at times heartwarming series as it goes on. So, of course, it got canceled before it could fully finish its story, because the audience that read Gantz wasn't interested in the series that only had one set of tits early on. So Oku went on to write a series about a porn star who turns into a naked giant to fight kaiju.
Fucking goddamn it. I know that you're accurate about that, too. I guess the easy answer is Hero, who we shit on constantly, but early Fairy Tail and a couple times throughout Rave Master did legitimately, I think, just tell exciting stories that got me like intrigued. Like, looking back, I don't think there's anything I'm like, oh wow, the storytelling here is incredible. But like genuinely had me like kind of excited for most of his characters and the worlds he was building. But I still feel like that's too much of the easy answer. Like, Hero writes 20 dog shit stories for every one kind of good one he has at this point.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Almost in a way, Naruto, where it's like, my opinion of Kishimoto just keeps sinking lower as time goes on.
Yes, he keeps on coming up with worse ideas.
This is like every time I read it, like I'm just like, damn, this guy is fucking garbage. But at the same time, like, Tune Exam was pretty lit. That was a pretty fucking.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there have been some series that we've covered where it's like, you know, hey, you know, when like a mangaka who's, you know, first series like failed, they come out with a new one. It's like, oh yeah, I like that new one better, but it's like, it's usually not something where it's like I'm super into like, oh, this one's like really, really, really good though. So I don't feel like I have a good answer for this, unfortunately.
I guess that's the opposite to Ninja's pointing out with Kishimoto, and that I was genuinely excited by that author, and then didn't really get surprised by it. I was just disappointed as I was like, this sucks.
And as a last question from now for, since we're on Gantz, did it ever get brought up as a topic for Statistics September? You guys have mentioned that you were running out of ideas for series, but you've never brought it up in the context of the event. Is it because you feel like both of you have discussed yours with the series enough before, or do you think it's just a sliver too good for Statistics September?
It's not that one.
It's not that one.
It's not that one.
Look, there are some good bits to Gantz. There are some good bits to Gantz, but it is a dirge of, as you put it already, edgelordy bullshit with absurd amounts of just death in violent, gratuitous manner for the sake of it, without actually like saying anything. There are people who have sex who get killed because then you get the twofer of tits and then death at the same time. There is a scene where the most evil motherfucker in the series, in order to go to the Gantz world, decides, he needs to just kill a bunch of people and die while doing so. But to do that, he decides to disguise himself as a black man for some reason. Like, it's just a mean, gross series for so much of it. And there are small little moments of hope here and there, and then it turns out that the reason everything is happening is because the group of the alien invading force is all just a bunch of stupid assholes. Like, it's not that's it. That's all you need to know, and it's not worth discussing in great detail. It's not worth dissecting for an hour to talk about why it's bad. So that's why I've never thought that we should do it for September.
The only time I've ever really considered being like, oh, I want to talk about Gantz again, is I had an idea to do a top 10 dumbest characters in manga list, and one of the people on it was going to be like the American soldiers from Biomeat who show up to be like, we have to kill this thing, and they're like, oh, look at this little guy, this is oh my god, it's killing us. And the other thing I wanted to put on the list is in the later thing in Gantz where like the aliens that come to the or the monsters that come to the world are aliens, and they're like, hey, why don't you come up into our ship? We're gonna put you in these cages. You don't just fly up there. And there's a bunch of people who are so excited to visit the aliens, and they're all singing the One Piece theme song. And I'm like, you dumb motherfuckers are all going to die. Also, this dude hates One Piece for some reason. It becomes like a weird thing where he's like, no, my characters who like One Piece die or are wrong or are bad guys. That's the only thing. And now that I've talked about it, I don't need to do it anymore. Now it's gone. Every bit that I wanted to discuss of Gantz has been released into the ether.
Yeah. We have occasionally chatted about it, and I think we've had plenty of opportunities to get our thoughts out about it. We don't need to do it for Statistics September. We watched like that one Gantz movie and had a good long talk about while we were commentating over it a few years ago.
Oh my god. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So no, thank you.
Yeah. Dear Nick and Quinn, this is from Zelhan. Zelihan?
I guess.
Oh no! New Phyrexia's Realmbreaker tree has just burst into the Shonen Jump plane. Now, as the current March of the Machine spoilers show, unlikely pairs of characters from different series are going to have to team up on a single card to resist them. Which pairs of characters from different series are you picking to fight off Phyrexians, and what stats or abilities are you giving them? So this is a big magic thing to explain to Nick. So
protection from black.
That's a big ability, but you can't give it to a creature. So the concept was there was Magic has a multiverse, but the bad guys for a set were like, we want to invade all the realms because we're tired of just invading ours and being the leaders of it. So we're going to invade all of them. So all these planes that we know basically had heroes and villains of the set sort of team up because it was like, we're against these people. We have to. This version says any from different series, which you could do, but I think the part of the joy of the team up cards were that they were characters who live in the same world and just would never interact before, like Thalia and the Gitrog monster. Thalia is just like a night lady who protects people from monsters, and the Gitrog monster is just a big ass frog. He eats people. Let me sit here and think, because I think there'd be some.
The point is characters who you would never see interacting normally are forced to interact and team up.
Yes.
That's okay. So never in a million years would you think that they would actually willingly meet up and interact with each other.
Yeah. So I think like.
So Mashiro and Azuki are going to be my first pick. They're forced to actually meet with each other before they, do their dumb plan to both achieve their outlandish career goals before they ever so much as go on a date together.
Wow, it would, because this is a threat to their entire existence. They would have to work together.
Yeah, they jump in the Ferrari or whatever, and so they've got, I don't know, haste. I guess that's the thing. Yeah, they've got haste because they actually have to move their relationship.
Yeah, they have haste. And then they have an activated ability that sacrifices them so they can go different places again. They're like, how are we gonna go? Like the second the fight is over, boom, gone.
It just in its place, it summons 2/1/1 tokens that have no abilities.
Yeah. That can't attack together. Like if one attacks, the other one has to stay back. Basically, vice versa.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
They have to be separate. There's a whole bunch. I feel like you could come up with this for every single thing, like Twice and Hawks or something like that. It don't even have to necessarily be rivals or anything like that, but just like two characters that would interact. And I think you could come up with like interesting abilities for him. Twice, of course, would just be a bunch of cloning effects, and I don't know. You get Hawks because he has wings. You could just do like an aura shards effect on it as well. That is quite literally how the cards themselves in the game were created. Was they just took two cards that basically existed already and just pushed them together. They are not synergistic with each other. They just have two completely contrary abilities at times.
Gotcha.
Twice and Hawks did interact. It's not 100% these characters never interacted in the match gathering thing. Like one of the examples is Kudoros, who is essentially Cerberus, and one of the Titans he's supposed to be keeping in the underworld. They have to work together. This is how bad things are, etc., etc.
So it's like if one of them is like, oh, this unit has a haste and also it's a wall.
Yeah, it would have haste and defender. I mean, you say this jokingly. There is not a card that is that specifically, but there are a bunch of cards that just have all their keywords combined. It's just it's a lot of keyword soup sort of stuff. Also, who from the various series are secret Phyrexian sleeper agents and or get completed during the invasion. So, from what Magic the Gathering told me, the only characters who got completed were a Johnny and then no, I guess Jace and Nissa also get completed, but most of the people who get completed are random nobodies who like, you're like, no, not Luca, I guess. Like, oh no. Tybalt, my favorite.
Oh no, Rebecca, not Rebecca.
Yeah, that's the kind of energy we're going for here. Like, no, not the two people who guard the water temple. I love them so much. Dance Lady and what's his face?
Kahono?
Sure. Oh no, my favorites. Yeah, you just find one of those for each series. They're the ones.
Vicious.
And then finally, whose spark awakens due to these events to become planeswalkers? Only one character spark awoke during March of the Machines was Quintorius, who was like a student at a magical school. Just needs to be like one weird little guy. One weird little guy transforms.
One weird little guy.
One weird little shonen manga guy.
Okay. Gula from Makucha.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
No. Zonzige.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. P.S. Now that March of the Machines is out, are we going to get an as explained by manga for the new Phyrexian saga as we did with War of the Spark? I feel like I thought we did do that, but I guess the War of the Spark one is just what I'm thinking of, and that was a really long time ago. I think we missed our opportunity to do that since now it's done. Part of the anticipation with War of the Spark was like, Nick, who knows what's going to happen? And then like afterwards,
Right.
like, actually it wasn't that good. And now I have that same feeling with this where I'm like, it's this big multiversal event. Actually, it's not very good. And the set that was supposed to be a resolution set is dog shit. One of the worst sets of all time. From a narrative, from a financial, every standpoint, mechanical, just dog shit.
But that manga was good. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't have known who the Emperor was without it. The Wandering Emperor.
I still don't know who the Emperor is. So, all right. So, this question is not signed. So, hey, Quinn, did you ever find? This is a deep.
This
cut.
is an extraordinarily deep cut. This is somebody who's been listening to me for probably 12 plus years.
Hey, Quinn, did you ever find out that song that played during the highlight package of the match between the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers in the 2008 season?
For context, I'm a big New York Giants fan. The 2008 season, they were doing really well. And every week on NFL.com, they would take what was considered like the most significant game and they would give like a full video package to them. And there was a game between the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers at the end of the season where the Giants were starting to look a little rough. And they had a big statement game where their various different running backs all combined for an obscene number of yards, and it had a really cool song that played. It's also where I picked up the term yeoman's work, because that was like the call that kind of ends it to like the New York Giants O-line putting in yeoman's work. I've never been able to find that song, and I don't think you can even find the video anymore. I don't know if this person posted this on the idea that they're like, I have it for you. Here it is. I'd be so excited, but I truly don't even know if you can find this video anymore.
Gotcha.
I have a shiny nickel
no.
for the first person who does, though.
Yeah, that's right. That's our bounty, a shiny nickel, specifically a shiny one.
Oh, God, I'm going to have to get polished? Why the fuck did I make that stupid promise?
I'll go ahead and do the next one, too, since that was really quick. So from Ota, Dear Quinnick, a few questions today. Number one, I've had Fusion on my mind recently and decided it's basically always cool. Not always the case. A lot of the really early Yu-Gi-Oh! Fusion monsters are dog shit.
Whoa, Flame Swordsman, Nick, don't put those words in his mouth.
I'm not even. I'm talking about
Cyber Commando.
Yes, yes, that is one of. Or I think Cyber Commando actually fuses into it.
Yeah, I was gonna say there is some like poop fucking fusion card that's like 800 power or something like that with no effects. You're like, why would I do this?
It's like fusionist. Oh, it's shit monster and other shit monster, and then when you fuse it, it's like it's got 1200 attack.
Yeah,
like, fuck this. In manga and anime, what are your favorite examples of fusion? Robots combining or technical fusions like Magneton also count. So any like two or more things becoming one thing. Good examples of that.
I'll be honest. I love, and this is like a thing that I've been just like regarding over the years. I have come to love Magnemite and the Magnemite line, and Magneton in particular, I think is super cool. Like that card is like, or Pokemon is like slowly creeping up the ranks of like a top 5. Favorite robots combining. I do just like fusions of things. Like
yeah,
when I take
any two things
aspects,
becoming one thing. Yeah.
is usually pretty cool. I don't have it for robots per se. Transforming robots have never done a ton for me. So I don't know if I have that per se. But like the DNA fusions and Digimon were pretty cool. What does have more fusions? Dragon Ball has fusions, but they're all the same to me. They're all just like the same generic looking person with a different name, and I'm supposed to remember which one's which. I don't remember when it's Gogeta and when it's fucking Voku or whatever. Like I don't know the difference between them.
One of them is when they use the Patara earrings to fuse, and one of them is when they do the fusion dance.
I just don't remember which one's which, and I'm not going to. I refuse adamantly. I put my foot down.
Okay, I'm not gonna.
You can't hear it, but I'm stomping right now.
Okay, I believe you. Also, a little shout out to the one time that Frankie led the Straw Hats to do their fusion thing, where it was basically Usopp and Chopper and him being really happy about being a robot, while Frankie stood on Zoro and Sanji's shoulders, and then Robin refused to be the other arm because she thought it was really, really embarrassing. And that was the end of that, but it was funny.
Yeah. I do like Replica Rabbit throughout Zoids. Zoids was pretty cool. That was like not fusion per se, but they added like extra stuff to Liger every so often. They'd be like Liger this mode, and it'd get like extra little stuff. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Schneider I think was one of them, the one that had all the blades and stuff. Yeah. There's a second question here. I've also been thinking of crossovers and how much I don't like those. So name one of the best and one of the worst crossovers you can think of. Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers, honestly. Some of those are not as fun as others to play.
Yeah. Smash Brothers is a great example. I mean, there's so many bad crossovers. In carrying with their theme of the episode of fighting games, there's so many bad crossover fighting games. Tekken Street Fighter is absolutely awful. The last Marvel vs. Capcom, I'll be honest, I have fondness for the first two Marvel vs. Capcoms because I played those in the arcade. 3 and beyond, I do not get those games. I don't understand why people even enjoy them. Like, I saw people playing 3, and I'm like, this is watching one person do a combo for 15 minutes and just killing all 3 of your characters one after the other.
I've got a weird story to tell. So this is something I've actually remember. I think I tweeted about it when I managed to track it down on the internet. So one of the most memorable fan fiction that I have ever read. It was something that I read when I was like 12 or something like that, and it was a crossover. It was a crossover of Pokemon, Digimon, and Ranma One Half. I don't know why those 3 together.
All 3, they belong.
All 3. So it was just this, this big, huge thing. It's like, God, when I was 12, I had so much time to read fiction. But there are just so many weird elements that I remember because a big core element of it is just that like it combined like all the aspects and like treated them as if they all functioned together. So there was like the digital world that could be accessed from the world of Pokemon, which was also where Ranma and company all lived and stuff. And for whatever reason, Pikachu was referred to was made the in training form of Leomon. So Pikachu digivolves at one point. Turns into Leomon.
Sure, why not? They share so many similarities. They're both yellowish. It ends there. But like that's enough to go on for some people when it comes to fusions.
But at one point Ash transforms into Angemon. And this kicks off a thing where there's this like Super Sentai element to the series all of a sudden, where basically it turns out that Ash and a bunch of his friends are the new iteration of the Digidestined, quote unquote, except instead of having Digimon, they digitize and they turn into like, a Sentai or, Ronin Warrior or whatever you want to call it to it, with powers based around one of the 8 crests. So like it's Ash, Misty, Brock, Ricky, I want to say.
Jesus, Richie, right?
Ricky or Richie,
Who's
I guess.
The one who had it? He was the one with the other Pikachu?
With the other Pikachu,
yeah,
yes.
Richie.
From the Indigo Plateau. James, Ranma, because it's also a crossover with Ranma One Half. Tracy from the Orange Islands.
Not Jesse?
Not Jesse. Not Jesse.
Okay. Yeah, we have one girl already. We don't need a second one. Jesus.
The 8th one, no one would ever guess this who didn't see my thread on this when I posted about it a few years ago. It is, I think her name is Jeanette, I want to say. It's a J name. It's Ash's 4th opponent in the Indigo League, the girl who had the really good Bellsprout that knew judo. For some reason, it's her.
Fuck. Dude, I love fanfiction.
And for some reason, she is Ranma's love interest, not any of his harem.
I fucking love fanfiction because some motherfucker out there saw that random ass character and they're like, her. I give a shit about her now more than anyone else in existence. I care about her.
It's wild as shit. And also, this is such a stupid detail for me to remember, but I think it was just so weird that it sticks on my brain. Because it's also Ranma One Half, Ash also gets cursed into turning into a girl when cold water is spurted on him. And there is an entire conversation that they have to have about why Ash has such huge knockers while in his girl form. It's such a weird thing.
It's just...
He's 10!
I was going to say, like, Ash cross-dressing has been an element of the anime before. They never... stopped to be like, what giant knockers you have. That said, they did do that with James.
Yes.
That one episode that was banned. But yeah. What a world. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. As far as I can remember, it was awesome when I was 10. So.
There you go. It sounds awesome. Another question here from Oda. Dear WMR Inc., you two are guest stars in the newest Scooby-Doo movie, Scooby-Doo and the Manga Mystery. Describe the mystery. What's the crime? Who's the monster? Who's the culprit? And what's the weird thing Fred's into for only this movie?
Sorry, that is such a very one of the movies thing. Where they just like make up a characteristic because Freddy is such a bland character in the original version.
So the first thing I thought of is what's Fred into for this movie, and the only thing I know is that the Trap magazine or whatever.
Right.
I just want to keep playing into this idea. So he's big into Trapper, which is the trap-focused social media platform where other people all gather together to talk. It's basically Twitter, but everyone's just talking about booby traps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that might become a plot point later on as he has to contact his trapper friends to be like, guys, how do we get out of this trap?
He does like the entire sequence from Galaxy Quest where they contact all the mega nerds to get the inside scoop on stuff. The crime that they're investigating is who canceled the last Sayuki.
You're really passionate about it. I'm kind of just there for the fun time. Like, oh, look at this talking dog. What are we doing? I mean, I guess.
Oh, and that's the thing is that like we're like the special guests like that like in that one series where they would get like Don Knotts for the episode to help.
Yeah, it's been a rough time for Scooby-Doo. They went through everyone at WWE and they're like, I guess podcasters now.
I can't believe that they stopped at 3, honestly.
There's so many more.
No, they didn't stop at 3. They stopped at 4 because there were 2 that featured Scooby-Doo. God, what a weird time.
Extremely. Can the monster be Shonen Jump? Like it's like a Shonen. It's like a ghost pirate that looks exactly like the Shonen Jump logo.
All right, or maybe it's like Mirai the robot from that one manga writing series.
Time Paradox Ghost Rider.
Yes.
And when we finally catch them using Fred's trapper friends, and we're like, who was the culprit? It's just a mirror reflecting back on us. We are the culprit. We are the reason why there is no more Last Sayuki.
We're the reason Last Sayuki got canceled.
And we have to live with that the rest of our life. Mystery Inc.'s like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what this. We just want to stop a ghost, so they just leave us dejectedly staring at the distance.
I pull out this one of those conspiracy boards. It's like if we examine the popularity polls, as it turns out, it was actually just gradually declining over time. It just didn't catch. It all makes sense now. Velma, get out your supercomputer so we.
You just hear their cars starting to drive off.
It all makes sense. Oh man.
Good question.
Yeah. We'll do maybe 1 or 2 more. I think because we're winding down here. Let's go with Kiniku Fans asks, Dear Nicholas F. Time and Rolo T. Quinn, you have been struck by a bus and been sent to another world. But you're in luck. It's a world of your choice from the current recap. What world do you choose and what role will you take on? You are allowed to replace an existing character or be altogether new. Your choice. Now tell us all about how you would be the best life coach for Guk. No, oh wait, that's a different one. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I think this next part isn't part of it.
So in my family, my dad's actually been hit by a bus before. So I just want to imagine. The Isekai adventure you went on while he was than my dad as a child. So he's just like, this 40-year-old man is just like, what's going on here? I'll get this. I throw him into One Piece. He's just really confused and uncomfortable.
Oh,
Where's Speed Racer? I know that one. Give me Speed Racer.
I'm gonna go to the world of Cypher Academy. And anytime that a puzzle gets presented, I'll just be like, "This isn't a good code. Codes are supposed to be things that let you communicate with each other."
You're the one contrary voice in there. You're like, this puzzle
contrary.
sucks.
And everyone's like, "This is why we don't have 2 male students."
Yeah, who let the second one in? And that's
I'm 34 years
that's
old.
not the issue they have. They're like, who let the second boy in? And that's how you had to survive in there. You had to pretend to go undercover.
Yeah, I just wear a very unconvincing wig,
You
but I
don't
refuse to shave on
If anything, you kind of grow it out a little bit.
I don't try to change my voice at all.
They're like, hey, Nicolina, what do you think about this? This puzzle sucks. Shut up, Nicolina.
No one likes you.
Oh, it was pretty good.
Also, your glasses weapon sucks. Yeah, I know. I never bothered to wash them.
They're just regular glasses. My power is I can see.
See how bullshit your puzzles are.
Oh my god.
All right, good. All right, good answers.
Question here from Ninja X3i. On a scale from 1 to code, how excited are you for the imminent return of Boruto?
I'm not sure if I'm excited, but I do occasionally, when I check my Jump app, be like, is Boruto back yet?
I did keep forgetting. I was like, when does that come back? And it was super enjoyable how long it was gone. But now I'm like, now it's like summer's over and I'm like, fuck. Back already? God damn it. This sucks.
It's going to be a little bit difficult as long as we're covering New Sexorcist, which might be for a significant period of time, because it's like, how do we do that and Boruto? Like, how do we keep up the energy for that? It's going to be a little tricky, I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we can answer one more question now. Now that I see the length of this one. Okay, this comes from J. Coginsa. Hello, good day, Nick, Liberator of Victories, Freeman, and Quinn, Hilarious Queen of Scotland, Larios.
Aww.
Nice ones, yeah. 2 questions, and I apologize in advance that it'll probably be very flowery and pompous. And all right, we'll skip over the. Don't worry about it. First question. We all know about the unlimited possibilities which follow what-if scenarios. I did my part and was wondering at one point, what if Bleach actually did end with Aizen's initial defeat at the Deicide arc, with Ichigo losing his powers after all? Made me think, how would this end have influenced the perception of Bleach compared to what we got ultimately? I think there is an interesting idea behind this alternative. Bleach starts with Ichigo having troublesome teenagehood, having to deal with ghosts in his free time, being somewhat of an outsider in his environment initially. What if Bleach used this to reframe his adventure by him being bothered by his otherness, only to learn to tolerate it and even actively appreciate it because it helped him to make it so many new connections he wouldn't otherwise have made, being friends with Rukia. Only to draw his hero's journey to a full circle by giving up his powers for his friends and loved ones to beat Aizen and become a new person as a result, symbolically growing as an adult. So I think that there would be 2 very different perceptions of this. One would be all the people who just kind of like lost interest in Bleach by around this time, which was a lot of people. Like it's not me like, making that up myself because my own perceptions or anything. It is like statistical, like how interest actually was dropping off on Bleach around this point. Sales figures were decreasing, ratings were down, and a lot of people outside of the Bleach fandom were like, is Bleach over? They legitimately. So I think if it just ended there, people were like, okay, yeah, well, Bleach is done. Maybe people would like go back to it when it ended and just have and be able to draw their own conclusions, which would probably generally be, it was at its best, in probably like the Soul Society arc, and it was kind of tapering off by the time that it ended, because that final battle was very, very long. For people who still liked Bleach at the time, they will be very dissatisfied by the conclusion. There have been all sorts of people that I've seen share the opinion of like, no, if it ended there, there would be all sorts of stuff that we would never have found out. We never would have gotten answers on this character, that character. There would be all these unanswered questions. We never would have revisited the question of the Quincy, which was definitely an open thread at that point. We never would have found out like any more about, honestly, characters that we didn't find out more about anyway, like Chad, like with his powers and stuff, like, oh, his powers are hollow like and stuff, and then he just gets defeated by Noitora, and that's just kind of it. So it would basically be, I think, the general perceptions that those groups have about Bleach, only probably more so. Just like, instead of having the final thought of like, oh, well, all the Vandenreich stuff was kind of like not as good compared to what came before it, it would be like, all the stuff that was in the Eisen arc, was not a great conclusion to the series. Whereas all the people who were really passionate about it would have been like, we need more because there's all this stuff that we didn't address.
Okay. Ninja is saying that there was like an issue in the thing. So this is not Jake Huggins' question. This is Brawla's. Jake Hogg will go up as sort of our first one up next time. So apologies for that. To the question, it feels like a lot of ways it's not that different from how it actually ended. There would still be a lot of the same complaints, which is like, oh, Chad, Orihime, and Uryu didn't really feel like they contributed a whole lot. And that just was a problem with the series in and of itself. But there would have been just a lot of things people left in the air. Why didn't we ever get to see Shunsui's Bankai? That honestly would have been the biggest thing. Just why didn't we see so-and-so's Bankai? Why didn't we see this, But I think, like, narratively, maybe it would have made Deicide slightly less annoying, because it was like, oh, this is, like, the end. It's why there's so many build-ups, yeah. Whereas now you're just like, why the fuck were there, like, 45 parts of this stupid fight? I don't understand.
So it lasted so long. Yeah. Second question. 10 years is a long time. 10 years ago, both Bleach and Naruto were still running. One Piece was at the end of Punk Hazard. Toriko, Food Wars, and Beelzebub were all running in Jump together. But 10 years is also a lot of experiences and new knowledge. So here's my question. If you had the chance to speak to your 10 years younger self right now, what would you tell them? It could be big things like personal important stuff, marriage, or coming out. It could be small things like spoiling Bleach and Naruto, or warn your younger selves not to be that invested into the promised Neverland, or just the information that you are still doing with WMR 10 years later, and yes, you two were already singing on WMR back then. What would you share with them for whatever reason?
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, I'd go back and be like, hey, transition, please, for the love of God. Yeah. There's also a lot of other personal things I would like to tell myself. I don't want to get sad and mopey here and stuff like that, but the ability to go back in time can change a lot of, like, sad things that come about or whatnot. I think I'm going to try to stick more towards, like, manga and things like that. And I think one lesson I would tell my younger self is, like, don't fall into the thing where you think it's funny and good criticism just to hate something, which is still a lesson I have to, like, remind myself on. But that's, like, when we started, that was kind of the thing where, like, just yelling at stuff was enough to be like, this is, like, great and solid. And I think there's a lot of good stuff I missed out on just because, like, the instantaneous knee-jerk reaction is to be like, I want to just be mean to this, and that's in its own way funny and stuff like that. And then also, I'd say, One Piece hasn't ended. I don't know how it's ending, dog. I can't even really spoil anything for you. Just appreciate Frankie's design while you can. And
aww.
That's it. They'd be like, no, what do you mean? He's so perfect now. Why would they change it?
I think that Frankie had been redesigned already at that
point. I was going to say, at this point, Punk has it. It's already there. We're just like, you're an idiot. Do I get dumber in the future? I'm like, oh, yeah, the stroke!
Yes, you do. I would tell myself, you're going to decide you want to be an accountant. Don't go to that first school that is letting you in because they're just going to take your money. stick in community college. Plan if you can go to college full time and finish sooner rather than working at the same time. And yes, Nicole's the one. So I think I may have already known that at the time we'd been dating for a while, but in terms of minor stuff, I think one of the things I would tell myself is don't pick up the Elusive Samurai.
Yeah. Like it doesn't. You're reading it at its high point.
It's like it's you might
Good.
think that it's good about 20 chapters in, but then you're not going to be happy with it a while later.
Yeah, eventually it gets to be daunting.
So, and I think that there might be some little things here and there, like get those iShield 21 volumes while you can, because they're not going to be in print much longer.
I think again, like even by this point, I think they were pretty. They were starting to get out of print at that point.
Well, iShield 21 was at least I think it was only just recently finished at that time. It was only
one of our earliest episodes of Weekly Manga Recap is us talking about the entirety of iShield 21.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and there's also just a nice note from Brawl to correct things. That's like, hey, thank you for the over 10 years and stuff. Yes, and we want to thank you guys in our audience for, those of you who have stuck with us for all this time, and those of you who have come along the way as well. We are always very happy to hear from our community, and we are very, very happy to have the community that we do, especially seeing the way that some other people who put out content out there don't get treated as sweetly as you guys treat us. So thank you. I think we'll be done taking Q&A for now, guys. So thank you for submitting your questions. We'll do some more next time.
We're keeping all of them in there. We'll definitely get back and answer all these questions.
So all the questions that you guys submitted for us so that we would have stuff to talk about today, they're going to be even more outdated when we get to this.
Hey, many of the ones we read were from August when we announced
That's true.
So we're pretty good. We're doing good.
Yes, we are. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We will be back with a normal episode next time.
Is it really normal? Boruto's back.
The special episode next time, another special episode. And I guess also we'll start off on reading our last recommendation before we hit Sadistic September for this year. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Let me pull that back up.
Guys, thank you for listening to the show. We stream here on twitch.tv/RoloT Wednesdays, usually starting around 7:30 to 8 Eastern Time. You can follow us on social media. You can also join us on our Discord, which will be linked wherever this is posted. If you want more Weekly Manga Recap, we post all the audio episodes, weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. It gets cross-posted over to Spotify, iTunes, all sorts of podcast feedy places. And the video version is available on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap. The video version has an opening made for us by Milo Jack Stillitz and Wensleydale Cheddar, who we do Wensleydale Cheddar, sorry. We'd like to thank for creating that. Steve Mann does occasional title cards for us. You can check out his work under Steve Mann Art, wherever boobs can be drawn on the internet. If you want to give us a bit of support to the show, we are on Patreon, patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap. As mentioned previously, we put up bonus episodes on there for you guys to enjoy. And last but not least, thanks to everyone who chipped in. The Q&A stuff was all posted up on the Google Doc that is maintained by Ninja X3i, where you can also check out all sorts of statistics and stuff associated with the, as mentioned, over 10 years of history of the show. There's a lot of stuff that we have talked about, and it might serve as a very helpful reference doc in case you're curious about that kind of thing.
There we go. All right, guys. That is going to do it. Do you have anything you want to say?
No.
Leave? All right.
No.
You got nothing. You get nothing from us. No blood from this turnip, from this stone.
Well, hold on. Why is there a bloody turnip in this scenario?
Oh,
Oh, should we not talk about this on stream? Do you need to
Yeah.
like? Okay.
All right.
Okay.
When we get off stream, you tell me about the porn you watched, and then I'll tell you about why this radish is bloody or whatever. Bye.